Last week we discussed the Superfish thing, and we talked about some of the potential issues that could come up as a result of that. And John, I guess you were looking at this a little bit more closely.
Yeah, so I missed the discussion last week because I was out, so I didn't really get the whole gist of what you guys covered. But the basis of the whole Superfish thing is Lenovo had a whole bunch of laptops that they started shipping with this software that's on there called Superfish, which kind of acts as an HTTPS proxy intercept in a way. And the problem with that is that it makes all sites, they basically sign a SSL certificate with their own root certificate on the fly and give it back to you. So wherever you're going, it's signed by them, and they can also, if they wanted to, intercept what you're actually the communications in between, which is not necessarily good either.
Right. And Matt, you had described some of the flaws in the way they had actually done that. Right.
That's true.
Well, I was going to mention that. So they have one certificate, it's just one key pair, which they had buried into the software, and it was very easily cracked. It was a simple password. So now that people have that, the malware authors apparently this past week have decided, okay, well, this particular certificate is good for code signing, so they could sign files, SSL server, email for secure email. Basically, it's a full authenticate. It's not a certificate that's just for certain purposes, like most of them usually get assigned. This can do any of those functions. So they started signing their malware with the certificate, which is trusted on these laptops that have Superfish.
It'd be
installed.
specifically those devices. It's not.
Right.
It's not going to be a widespread thing. I mean, other than that community, because the certificate had been installed on devices that have the Superfish.
Right, installed and as a
software.
Trusted root certificate. Whereas if you're one of our PCs or your PC doesn't have Superfish on it, you're not going to have that as a trusted root certificate. So it should pop up and say, hey, I don't know this certificate, and give you some warning messages when you try to execute that file. So anyway, apparently people have kind of started leveraging this tactic, and a lot of the antivirus vendors are already aware of this and trying to build in protections against people trying to do this. But just something to be aware of.
So I guess, how would I know? I guess that perhaps there's something that indicates that the user has this kind of device that has the Superfish installed. I guess of all the computers that are out there, how would you find the ones that are?
I think it's more of a shotgun approach. I think you'd try it on all the machines and
see
you
if it
get the
works.
ones that happen to have it installed.
Right. And somebody might even just go ahead and click through and accept it anyway, right?
They may still do that, yeah.
Right.
Okay. So don't click through. Don't accept things from certificates that you don't recognize. I guess is sort of
I think
part of the moral.
that's the lesson
story
for users, but I think the lesson for developers and especially people who are dealing with cryptographic certificates is understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
There's not that many good reasons to create a certificate that can be used in all cases, which is exactly what we have here.
Right.
I mean, if you're using it for SSL, make sure it's set up for SSL and only that. If you're doing it for code signing, only that. Have multiple certificates and don't allow this situation to occur.
Yeah, I guess then as a master of super generic statements, there are no shortcuts in security. You really kind of have to pay attention to the details. And that's, I think that's exactly what you were saying, right?
And keep your private keys strong. Don't have stupid passwords. Don't
that.
bury them inside your software, and keep them away from everybody else. Don't put them up on GitHub. Right?
Don't
Things
make
like that.
Don't make it the name of your company.
Right.
Yeah. So again, those are details.
Right.
These are paying attention to the details. That's really the path to good security if you're implementing security. Or even, I guess, if you're trying to protect yourself, paying attention to details. Where do the links really go to? Is it something that you recognize? Do you really think Amazon is giving free gift cards?